Former President Trump has been indicted in the special counsel's investigation with 4 new charges filed for efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. This marks the first time a former president has been charged in connection to disrupting the transfer of power between administrations. Today's indictment also comes just days after that same special counsel, Jack Smith, filed superseding charges against the former president in a separate case related to his handling of classified documents after leaving office. Mr. Trump also faces separate criminal charges for a third case in New York State, where earlier this year he pled not guilty to charges involving hush money payments during his 2016 campaign. But today's new charges could be among the most significant. Legal challenges Mr. Trump is facing, and a reminder he has denied any wrongdoing in all these cases. Let's bring in our senior legal correspondent, Laura Jarrett. You literally just received the indictment. You've had a chance to go through it. 4 charges. Can you tell us what they are?
Yes, Lester. This really focuses on all of the efforts that the former president undertook to try to overturn the will of the people, to overturn the election results. It is not, at least as on this first reading, about the violence that took place at the Capitol. As you can see there on your screen, obstruction-related charges, specifically obstructing the congressional vote count that happened on January 6th, and all of the steps that the former president and his allies took to try to stop that count, to try to stop the peaceful transition of power. So we're going to go through this. It is lengthy, spanning about 45 pages, but again, the former president of the United States, for the first time in history, has been indicted for trying to thwart the last election.
And to frame this from the beginning, this was never necessarily about the riot itself of January 6th, but what the prosecutors believe may have sparked that riot.
Well, and we had wondered for some time exactly what the charges would be, as everyone remembers those iconic images from the attack on the Capitol and the speech that he made preceding it. And we had wondered whether he would be charged with some sort of incitement-related crime. And we're going to need to go through it again. But on the first pass, this appears to relate to the actual steps that he tried to take to thwart the vote count. Right. So that's why we're going to, again, try to
I'll give you a moment to go through that. Let me bring in NBC's Garrett Haake, who has been covering the former president. Garrett, walk us through how this day has gone.
Well, Lester, this is a day that the Trump campaign has long anticipated would happen. It was always a question of when, not if, in their minds, that he would face additional charges related to the 2020 campaign. And as has been the case in his previous indictments, the former president tried to scoop the announcement using his social media platform to post earlier today that he suspected this would come Friday, and to start questioning the timing of this indictment as a form of election interference, arguing that where it comes in the presidential campaign could only be an effort by President Biden to somehow derail his campaign. Since word of the indictment has broken, a former president's spokesman confirms to me that he was informed of the fact that he had been indicted. And the campaign sent out a lengthy statement using much the same language that they've used in the face of his other legal challenges over the years, calling this an un-American witch hunt, suggesting that it is purely political, even making hyperbolic comparisons to 1930s Nazi Germany and Soviet authoritarianism to describe the kinds of conduct here from the Justice Department going after the former president. So it's clear that he's going to fight this in the public sphere just as much as he fights it in a courtroom. That has already become such a key part of his presidential campaign, Lester. In fact, the former president's previous arraignments, particularly the New York arraignment, have been huge days for him from an online fundraising capacity. Things like this, which would have been badly damaging right away to other presidential candidates, haven't seemed to have the same effect. The former president will be making this, I think, a key part of his campaign going forward as he fights these charges in the legal system.
All right, Garrett, we'll ask you to stand by. Let me bring in our senior Washington correspondent, Hallie Jackson. And Hallie, Garrett just walked us through some of the things the former president has said, trying to liken this to election interference in the 2024 election. Remind us again how this investigation began and the timing. It was before Mr. Trump was a presidential candidate.
That's right. As far as the special counsel investigation and then the special counsel, the investigation itself, and then the special counsel, of course, was created after Donald Trump did become a presidential candidate this cycle. I want to hit on a couple of key points, Lester, that we are learning from this indictment. First, the next big date. This indictment says that the former president has been summoned to appear on August 3rd, which is Thursday. So Thursday will be the day, based on this indictment, that we may see the former president. I'll leave it to the legal experts to talk through whether or not that date could change based on conversations with the former president's attorneys here. I would also note, and I think it's, big picture, right, remind people what this is based on, right? At the core of this indictment appears to be the former president's insistence that this election, the 2020 election, was stolen from him. It was not. That was not true. And this indictment lays out a series of examples related to the former president's mindset. The prosecutors here are saying Donald Trump knew that wasn't true. He knew it wasn't true when he persisted in making these claims that were not founded of election fraud. He'd been told directly, they say he'd been informed directly that this was not the case. And yet he continued to make those claims through the election, after the election, before January 6th, after the January 6th. In fact, and this is not in the indictment, this is sort of me just telling you based on the reporting here, Donald Trump continues to make those claims even today, that the 2020 election was stolen from him illegally. Again, it was not. There is no evidence of widespread fraud in the 2020 election. And I think it is interesting, as we're looking through this indictment, that it very specifically lays out his mindset. Remember, his attorney general, even at the time, Bill Barr, came out publicly and said there was no evidence of widespread fraud. This indictment lays out multiple instances where the former president, people around him, were told that it was not the case, Lester. And I think that mindset question has been an important one and continues to be an important one.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.